Sorry about that. I am coming to you guys today because I thought we'd go over a little bit about how my personal sculpting process works. Now, this is not to try to get you guys to sculpt like I sculpt because that's not the point, but it is something that I like to go over with people because at times people think that a sculpting process should fit a certain format or way of doing things. And there's nothing wrong with the format that a lot of people use or one that you might have come up with as long as it works. Now, with all these sculpting and art and carving videos that I'm doing, it should be known that there is no replacement for eye of design. So what that means is, doesn't matter how much effort you put into something. Unfortunately, some people just don't have the eye for design, and as hard as they might try, it just doesn't really turn out to be something that most people will appreciate. I don't mean to say that arrogantly. There are certain things I just can't do, and I realize that. Fortunately for me, I have what has been called an eye for design by many, and I'm very thankful for that. But that all being said, it doesn't mean that you can't better and learn to have an eye for design and things like that. And sometimes learning to have that style of design, learning to have a design that's your own and a style that's your own really boils down to the processes that you use to create your art. And I will tell you, I struggled for a long time with this in multifacets of my art because I basically was trying to copy other people's methods. Now, I wasn't trying to copy their art, but I was trying to go about creating art in the way that they did. And that's a problem. Sorry, it's raining on me. I'm going to bring this inside a little bit more. And the reason that that's a problem is simply because, well, we're individuals who are unique, right? We're not going to be the same as somebody else. And that's a challenge because if we try to go by what others do, it may not really sink in or click in our brains. Hold on. Sorry, got to get power tools in when it's raining. That can be a super challenge considering the fact that if it doesn't click, if it doesn't flow with you as a person, as an artist, it's probably not going to flow with your art. So, what might I be talking about? Like, what is it that some examples? Well, some people fully design and draw out their art or their sculpture or whatever it's going to be that they're going to use. Some people are going to try and, go at it fully freeform, and that might or might not work. So there's a lot of different aspects to all this that you have to kind of keep in mind. And that's really important because the reality of it is that you've got to test a bunch of stuff to kind of figure out what works for you. Okay. That's really, really key with all this. So I tried for a long time to sketch out every little angle and draw out my sculptures in 3D and then create them. And there's nothing wrong with that method for many people, but for me it didn't work. I got overwhelmed with all the details, and then because I grew up around hand tools and different things like that, and I've worked in carving and carpentry and metal fabrication, I actually got overwhelmed with how many tools potentially could make what it is that we are talking about making. And so it became super complex in my brain to make something, and I got overwhelmed to the point where I would just freeze. And then I wouldn't make anything. Or if I did make something, it looked super contrived. Like, it just didn't, I kept getting told it doesn't look authentic, or it doesn't look well balanced, or it doesn't look, or, and they said you got talent, but there's something missing. And I thought to myself, well, crap, what am I doing wrong? I'm, taking all this advice from artists and stuff, and I'm trying to do, basically like they do, which was their style, and it worked fine. And that was my problem, basically, right? I was trying to do things that for my brain didn't work. And I focused so much on the method of doing it and the effort of doing it, that and making sure it met that end schematic of the drawing I had made, that it made things very difficult for me. Okay? Just was not a good fit for me. Well, with time, I have figured out that I can't fully design any project that I'm working on. I can work and design certain facets of the project, and I have to trust my instinct, my intuition. I would say that a lot of my art is kind of organically evolutionary in the fact that I start with a very simple structure in my brain, and then I go and I start to make a change to it, and then I react to that change, and then I react to that change. So I'm always looking at my art as like these micro pieces that form something larger. And another thing that I had to learn was that when I made a mistake or something didn't turn out the way that I had originally thought it might, I had to learn not to freak out and just give up, because that was my inclination. I'd start off and I'd want to make this hole that went through at a certain angle and it intersected with these other aspects, and then I would get all discombobulated and screwed up because I was off by, an inch. And then it didn't work the way that I had originally thought. Hey, Sean, thanks for stopping by. So it's going to take some experimenting on your part to figure it out. And then you're going to have to figure out, do I follow a process that is very formatted and very designed, or do I rely on my intuition? And to be fair, some people can't really rely on their intuition. If they try to walk up to a piece of wood and start to just carve at it, they get really overwhelmed. So they're the opposite of who I am, which is totally fine. So they have to draw it all out, and they do different methods. I've seen people do all kinds of interesting stuff to kind of get their brain wrapped around a three-dimensional object, because I was told start off with like flatter, not so three-dimensional objects and work into three-dimensional objects. And to be fair, I did that, and I started for a time. Thanks, Sean. I really appreciate it. I subscribed to that idea for a time, and I would work with really three-dimensional products. More flat two-dimensional products. But what would occur is I found that I almost like shut my brain down to the three-dimensional aspect of things. So one day I had to just like step out of it and say, I'm not doing any like flat stock carvings or sculpting for as long as I feel comfortable, until I feel comfortable with like three-dimensional objects. So, and I did. I just started playing with random pieces of wood that I found and just started messing with them until I felt comfortable with that third dimension of depth and figuring out how it might react. And Felix, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you. And I had to kind of figure out what was going on with that until finally it kind of clicked one day that the way I process things is different. I process things in micro sections of a sculpture versus a full sculpture. And my brain in the back end, like on its own, is kind of putting these things together that are balanced, and that's kind of what you could consider an eye for design, an eye for art, right? And sometimes, like, can it be trained in you? Yeah, it can be honed and trained, but some people have it, some people don't. That's just the reality of it. And I'm not trying to put anybody down. I just can't do certain things. Like mathematics are not my thing. I just can't. They've tried teaching me and I can't do it. I can design structural elements, but if you ask me how I got to that equation, I couldn't tell you, but they'll usually hold up because that's how my brain works. So when you're getting into sculpting and art of any sort that's three-dimensional, try different methods. Like try drawing it fully out, try scoping it out, try not, try just randomly walking up to it and making something happen with something and see what occurs. Now, another thing that I found is that I started early on really over planning all of my tools, right? Like my tools were, I was laying out, you see these carvers and these sculptors, and they've got a row of tools on a table beside them, and they just pick it up and start, and then they drop it, pick up another one, start, and that's how they do it. And there's nothing wrong with that because they have a very precise way of doing it. And most of the time I found those people are the same ones that fully have something drawn out, like a design, fully sculpted, and they know exactly what they're doing with it, which is great. What I found though is that my brain, because it gets overloaded, I have to be a little bit, I hate to use the word lazy, but maybe a little bit more basic in certain aspects. So what I will do is I will use one tool that may not even be the best suited for the final result of what I want on a specific piece, or let me rephrase that, a specific portion of a piece. And I will do the best I can with that one tool to mimic what I want the finished product to be, keeping in mind that I need to leave a little bit of margin so that I can refine it at the end, so that I don't get overweighed by putting that tool down, grabbing another tool, coming back, and then being just overwhelmed with swapping tools all the time. Am I using the right tool or not? So I get a little like complacent and a little lazy. I start using one tool. Like recently I was just using my Arbortech, sorry, I'm doing this on what's it called, portrait selfie, so it's backwards, but it's the Arbortech turboplane on my angle grinder. And there are better tools for some of the portions of the sculpture that I was working on, but the reality of it is that I can mimic what I will do with a rotary sander or the Dremel to some degree with this tool, enough to give me a rough idea that I can move on to the next portion. Knowing that it's not going to be final keeps me calm. I can always go back and fix and adjust and whatever after the fact. But I have enough of a basic concept that my brain can process the next part, and I can continue on with the next design and try to balance it out somehow. So that's how I do it. But once again, that's not saying that's how you should do it. It's just how I do it. So it's important that we don't get focused or caught up on what a specific artist does or a specific method that you might have even been taught in school. So I went to Art Institute of Atlanta. One of the worst things that I found about being in Art Institute of Atlanta is they tried to train you to learn how to do art in a specific way. And I understand they have to have some kind of curriculum for things to judge your efficiencies or whatever. But I did really poor with that structure of school. And some of my professors were like, well, you'll basically never really amount to much in art. But on the other hand, while I'm no famous artist by any means or have a recognized name out there, my art has picked up in popularity over the past decades because I hadn't been doing it as regularly as I could have or should have maybe. But people ask me to build custom pieces of furniture for them or custom sculptures here and there. And it proves that I have something. Now, how much of something is still yet to be proved. I don't really care how famous I get or whatnot. It would be nice to make a little bit of a side income with my art, but I probably will never become a famous artist that sells for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars per piece. I kind of get that. That's fine. But it is interesting to see how my art has evolved. So I just found some sculptures that were both finished and partly finished in the house today for a very specific reason, which I'll get into later. And they were done back in 2009. And what's interesting about that is when I look at those sculptures now, there's so many processes and finishes on them that I cringe at. I just really like, And I can see why they didn't really sell back then to a discerning artist eye. Um, I've come a long way, and that's just kind of how it goes. You learn, you move forward. If I had tried to use different material stocks, so also don't be afraid to play with different stocks of material. If I had really looked into other options, and if I hadn't been so caught up on doing certain methods that I thought were the right methods, I would have probably advanced a lot faster and had a different perspective, and my art would have become a different beast than it is today. I may have been where I'm at now 15 years ago or 10 years ago. Maybe. We don't know. Hindsight's 2020, and trying to predict what would have occurred is impossible as well. You're right. So the thing is, though, I think I limited myself by not experimenting with things that came more naturally and easier to me versus doing what I thought I should be doing. And that's the whole point of this, right? So a couple of things. One, this piece here, I've got to move my arms in opposite directions. This piece here is the piece that I talked about in my last live video, where I talked about it not being what I wanted it to be, and I was really over it and just thought about throwing it out at one point. Well, I said when the mood hit me, I would come work on it, and the mood just kind of hit me today. Amongst all this rain and lightning and whatever, there's been a couple of moments of, decent sunlight and not lightning, which is the biggest point, because I don't like being out there running chainsaws and stuff with lightning. And I cut it down and I made it into something different. It's not nearly finished. I've got a lot more work to do on this, but it's definitely something that has made me regain hope in what this could potentially be. Okay, so that's step one on that. Now, what's also inspired me about this, which is the news that I mentioned in the description of this video that I was going to mention at the end, is that yesterday on a whim I went to Grand Junction and I visited a couple of galleries, and I actually went up there to look at a space that's for rent that I was thinking about putting some inventory in, because I'm running out of space here to hold my inventory. And in the process, I met a couple of really cool artists. Then they gave me some insight and suggested that I go to these 3 other galleries, which I did. And 2 of the 3 galleries, just through talking of them, I went in there to just look and kind of get a feel for the galleries. And 2 of the galleries actually started asking me, who I was, what was I, not like being nosy, but just what kind of thing was I doing? Was I there on vacation? Whatever. And it, turned out that I'm an artist and I'm a sculptor, and they asked to see my work. I didn't have any physical work with me, of course, and I really wasn't dressed for it. But then 2 of the galleries offered me exhibits and to display my work and sell it in the galleries. Unfortunately, both galleries were very close together, like just across the street, so I couldn't accept both of their offers. So I have accepted one, and I'm taking work in this coming week, and that's why I'm working on some extra pieces, because they wanted a little bit more inventory, and we will see what happens. I don't know. That's not a guarantee that they'll take my work. Keep that in mind, because they saw it in photos, they saw it in video, and I described it and we talked about it, and they're pretty sure that they want it, but until they get it in their hands, things can change, right? So but I did speak to the gallery owners, which is good, and I was also told that there's a couple other galleries that I should visit. And in fact, there's one gallery that one of the owner and gallery curator of the one that I'm showing my stuff to next week is actually trying to get me set up with another gallery. It's about 3 hours from us, I guess, and so it's closer to Denver, so it might be a different market and might actually be something that could, start some sales and some gallery exhibitions. I don't know. We will see. But that's super exciting, just that there's that potential. For nothing else, it helps reinforce to me that my hard work is paying off. Like they're seeing the degree of effort I'm putting in it. They're also seeing the quality of work that I produce, and they're seeing that I am an artist with design skills and with an artist's eye, which is really cool. Once again, we'll see how it all works out. I'm not counting all my chickens before they hatch. So I'm really excited about that. So this piece will continue to be in process right here. I will be working with that here in the near future. We will be making that something that will probably be part of a totem, not like a Native American totem, but just a stacked sculpture. And I have other sculptures like this one here that I've got to finish up to take and show to the galleries that I've talked to. And we will be doing some extra stuff with this. I found some ideas that I wanted to work with on this and make it just what I felt like was a little bit more both secure and also artistic, I guess. Just felt a little bit more finished. So I'll be working on those. And I've also got to do a bunch of carvings, like little animals and things, because they were really interested in those as well. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for checking it out. I saw a bunch of people come in and go, had a few comments, so that's awesome. Thank you all. And I will do another video, live video here soon. When? I don't know. Just as they come about and I have the time to do them, I will do them. So by subscribing and checking out the description, you can find out more about me. Also, I have some tools and stuff that I use that I really like that are listed through Amazon. If you buy through those, it's an affiliate link. I do get a small commission based on that. So it helps me out as well, but no pressure on that. In this video, in the description, I will also be putting AJ's contact, which is the artist that I spoke to that helped me out yesterday. He has some really cool stuff. You should go check him out. And I'll also put the link to the gallery that I'm going to be meeting with next week on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, you can check that out as well and see what they're about. And I appreciate you guys very much. Hope to have you come back and check out more of my videos in the future, and we will talk in the near future. Take care. Bye.